Hello, everyone. Welcome to Streamin' Hub Radio. I am Sage Stevens, the host of Shout Out with Sage. And today I have an actor who is just in LA, and we were met at this event. And here I find out he's like nominated. Well, the film he acted in was nominated. Let me just do that over again because I didn't shut off my phone. I'm so sorry. He was nominated, or his film Invincible was nominated for an Oscar, an Academy Award for best short film, was it? Yes.
Best live action short film.
Best live action short. And
Yes.
today I would like to welcome to the show Ralph Prosper. Hi Ralph, how are you? All the way from Montreal.
All the
Bonjour,
way
ça
from
va?
ça va très bien, merci. Happy to be here. I miss LA already, but it feels good to be home too.
Okay. And what was your biggest takeaway from being in LA?
My biggest takeaway from being in LA is that I have a lot of work to do, and I have a lot of work to do, and I have to keep on working even harder. And that I'm also heading in the right direction. Because I met a lot of people that saw the film, people in the industry that really gave me a lot of respect for my craft, and they really appreciated my work. And the beauty of it all is that even though I was not speaking English, they were driven, and they were attracted, and they really believed in what I was doing, which was great.
Right. I actually watched the film Invincible. I was at a screening before Christmas. And yes, it's a very moving, powerful film. The lead character is a young boy who's going through some mental issues and being very rebellious. And you played what was exactly?
I'm a social worker. And I'm trying my best to help him see that there's beauty out of life, but you need some type of discipline. You need some type of balance in order to reach new heights.
Yeah, it was a very moving film. I mean, it hit me really hard. It was very well done. It wasn't fast paced, but it had a great tone and it moved along well. How did you end up getting that role?
Well, interestingly enough, my agent sent me an email, and this was a short film, and they didn't have a lot of budget, and she said to me, "Listen, here's the script. Have a read, and if it's of any interest for you, you don't even need to do an audition. They actually want to have a Zoom call with you. They want to have a conversation with you." So we had a Zoom call, and we had a great conversation. And what you must know is that when I'm not working on a movie set or on a stage, I happen to be a substitute teacher at a high school.
Oh, wow.
So I've been doing that for quite some time now, and that experience itself is what I shared with the director of the movie, and how much I related to the story, and I could understand what the lead character was going through, but I could also understand what the social worker was trying to accomplish. And from that point on, I got the role.
So what's your experience then, like if as a high school teacher? So you had all those experiences. Did you have similar students as the role as a boy who played the main role?
Oh yeah, no question. I mean, I work in a very tough high school, public high school, where you have a lot of kids that are often left to themselves, and often we play the role of parents. We play the role of what's the word I'm looking for? Someone that you look up
Like
to,
a mentor.
Mentor, yes. You play the role of a mentor, and you help them see life in a different angle. And I have to say that that's probably the number one thing I like doing as a substitute teacher. It's to actually help those kids find other ways, other avenues to grow, other than doing bad things.
Yeah. Right. So you shared that with the film director.
I did.
Vincent, correct? Was his name?
Yeah, Vincent René Lortie. Yes.
So Vincent was I'll let you do the French. My French is very rusty. I did grow up in Canada, but it's super rusty.
That's fine.
So you shared your experiences with Vincent. Was he what's the word I'm looking for now? He was accepting of those of that feedback?
He was, yeah, he was very accepting of the feedback, but he also, his eyes lit up because I really felt like he had found someone that was actually speaking his language and that
Mhm.
was sort of seeing or had the same vision that he had for the film. So that was great. It was a nice little marriage
Yeah,
in that particular moment. Yeah, I'll never forget it, and he'll never forget it too.
right. Did you have a lot of time in rehearsal? Like, did you, with the young boy, adult male, the young guy, did because he wasn't really a child, but he wasn't a man. Like, I don't,
No,
yeah.
he was 15.
The teenager,
Yeah,
right? The
he
teenager.
was.
That was the word I was looking for.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
I mean, you got to understand at the time, the kid was probably like 14, 15, and
Mhm.
it was his first acting gig. It was his first experience in the professional world. And they had rehearsals with him also. But
Right,
I remember going over our scenes together and doing a bit of script analysis and also script editing too, because
right,
some of the things that were written, I was like, maybe we should, say it this way, say it that way, and it was a nice collective effort.
okay.
Every time we had rehearsal, it was nice, and I remember actually having that conversation with Vincent
Mm.
when we got the Oscar nomination. I said one of the things that we did for this film is that we paid attention to detail, and when you pay attention to detail, all of a sudden the movie takes a different shape. It takes a bigger volume because
Okay.
because you're thinking about moment to moment to moment. You don't want to cheat the audience, but we also the actors we want to portray reality as much as possible.
Right. Yeah. So what type of things would you work on as an actor to get that type of specificity in the roles?
A couple of things, like for instance, me every time that I get ready for a, a movie or whatever, I I try to think about different people, an image, you
Mm.
know. For instance, I had the opportunity to meet Terry Crews,
Oh, yeah.
these
Yeah.
past couple of days at the Oscars, and Terry Crews, although he's a big dude, he's got a big heart. He's very
Yes.
caring, but but you don't want to get Terry Crews mad,
Right, exactly.
right?
Yes.
So it's one of those situations where you look at him and then you're like, man, he's cool. But then if you say something wrong or you try to hit you or you try to hurt someone in his close
Right.
circle, you better walk away or you better run for your life. And so he was one of those people, in terms of built, in terms of physical expression that I thought about for that type of
Right.
film. For instance, that's one way of doing it. But also, I use my own personal experiences as a substitute teacher in terms of the language, the way I spoke to the student.
Mm.
Yeah, so that was a lot of that.
Right. So do you think the language and the tone, especially, like, I know when people talk to me in a certain tone, you're not, yeah, you're not going to get a good reaction. Do you think that's like really important as a, like, for your role and as a teacher?
Absolutely, but you can't just be that, right?
Mhm.
You also have to be that guy that if the kid does something right, you have to change your demeanor. You have to be you have to become the loving parent. You have to
Mm.
become the joker. You have to become the caretaker.
Mm.
There's many degrees to portraying that type of character, and I tried my best to bring some of those
Right.
elements throughout the scenes.
I see. Why did you begin acting? How did you start as an actor?
Whoa, that's a great question. So, so this is the very first experience I've ever had, and and going back through therapy and through different exercises I had in grad school in the theater conservatory I was, it made me realize that my first experience and the day I knew I was going to be an actor,
Mm.
I was probably 5 years old. There was this play that was going on at my school, and we were all sitting down in the gym, and the lead actor, who was wearing a costume or some sort,
Mm.
was doing his thing. And I remember with vivid memory looking up at him, hypnotizing the whole place. And I
Mm.
was mesmerized. I couldn't believe that one person could just completely take control, not by screaming, not by, and I was sort of a brat as a kid. So, my parents, it wasn't always easy for them because I was always moving around. But in this one instance, I was focused. I didn't want to move. And I was like, in my head, because at that age, how can you really know what you want to do?
Right.
But I remember telling myself, what this guy is doing, I want to do. So that was my very first experience with the notion of acting, and I never forgot it. But it went to sleep for a long time, but I never forgot it. Yeah.
So it went to sleep, and then what happened to activate it?
You know what? When acting is a passion of mine, and so every time that I would, find myself watching a film or seeing a play or listening to a song, I would always have these visuals. I would always, create this situation, and I would play in which I was in. Right? I was always this drama guy, but never on the inside. It's true. Always dreamy. Like even in high school, in classes, I would just go into my brain and just have these visualizations of things that I would want to do. But in hindsight, the force of your subconsciousness is so strong, and often we deny it. We don't pay attention to it.
You squish
We
it
don't.
down.
Yeah, we don't listen to it. And I didn't listen to it for a long time. And also, I come from a family of scholars, where, that was not the avenue. It's not that it's not that they were against it, but it's not something that they knew. No, so it wasn't something that they were going to encourage. And it took me a while to find my own courage to say, hey, this is what I want to do. And when I did that, no one was mad. I think they all knew, sort of speak.
They knew you would get there eventually. They just weren't sure when.
Yeah. And then and my dad was like, well, if you're gonna do it, you better be the best at it. That was his challenge.
Right. Yes. What part of acting do you like the best? Like why?
Ooh.
What's the best part for you?
These are great questions. The best part of great question. Yes. The best part of acting is to be able to be somebody else and do things that you can't do in real life. That's the truth.
Okay.
That's the truth.
Right. You yell in public or do whatever, yes. That you wouldn't normally.
It's like, and also you could you're free and you won't get in trouble for it.
Right.
It's true. Think about it.
Definitely. And what's one of the biggest challenges though that you've experienced, like getting your career going or where you're at now?
I think the number one challenge for me is having knowing yourself. First of all, knowing yourself, being honest with yourself in terms of what you can or cannot do or what you're afraid of, and just overcoming fears. That was my number one, and it's still a struggle today. It's gotten better. But the actor's life is never guaranteed. So one day, you're doing great stuff, and then woof, it's quiet, right?
Right.
Or the other way around. So that's the number one thing. That's the number one challenge for me that I've gotten better at. But second of all, to be perceived as an actor, not a black actor, not a green actor, not some, just
a beginner or whatever.
Yeah,
you're an actor. You're a working actor.
I'm a working actor, so it's got nothing to do. But because it's too often in our profession, sometimes you get stereotyped in certain situations, and I'm not comfortable with that. And it took me a while to say no. Okay, I don't want to.
You don't want all those other labels attached to you.
No. Yeah.
What would your advice be to then someone who was starting out as an actor who wanted to, pursue a career?
Are we talking about a black actor, or are we talking about just actor in general?
You can answer both ways. I think both ways are important.
Okay, so for the actor in general, if you really think that you have what it takes to become an actor, first and foremost, take an acting class. like, do something, because, in this day and age, especially the younger generation, everybody's really more, because of social media, people show so many things. It's the world of make believe, and they don't realize that those people that are there now they were on the other side before, and they didn't reach stardom just like that. There was a
Right.
point in their careers where they had to work hard and they had to make stuff happen for themselves, and then after that, things got better.
Right.
But I think the number one thing for a general actor is to just take an acting class. Try to see, because it's not easy at all. And
Right.
sometimes just okay, you're good looking, yeah, but
Yes. Yes. But that being good looking doesn't give you gravitas. It doesn't make you.
well, that's it.
It
It
doesn't.
can
It
only
doesn't.
take
It
you so
doesn't.
far.
Yeah. Like it's like the actor you watched when you were a child. That person had presence and they had
Hmm.
charisma and they had gravitas and they captured a room. And good looks alone doesn't necessarily do that. Like there's other
Yeah,
factors in there.
but a lot of people think that good looks can get them in the front door, and you
Well, I
know
mean,
oh,
it can't hurt, but you still have to carry. If you can't walk and talk
that's
and
right.
chew
So
gum, then you're in
exactly.
trouble.
So that's why I say, for the general actor, just
Right.
at least take a class and see what
Right.
happens and whatever. But for the black actor,
Mm.
it's a little different. The black actor, there's a couple of things. First of all, you don't want to fall into the stereotype. Stereotype is, if you want to spend the rest of your career being the gangster,
Yeah, the
being
thug.
the security officer, being the drill sergeant, or the
Athlete.
jailmate,
Yeah.
or the athlete, uh, okay, you could be just like the general actor, go pump some weights, stay in shape, and become an extra, and eventually, you might get those subpar roles, but you won't ever be taken seriously, other than the roles
Right.
that I just said. Now, if it's a craft, and now I really suggest going to acting class, going to theater class, going to script analysis class,
Mm.
learning about the craft, and also find ways to show them that you're way more than the color of your skin, right? And then once you get to that point, then all these doors open around you, right? Because
Right.
it's not something that they're not really accustomed to it. But once they know it, and they know your skill set, and then everything changes. It's a bit different. It's getting better, but there's a reality to it.
Right. You mentioned doors open. What doors were open for you as you've been? Like, were there any serendipitous moments involved, or as to get certain roles?
I mean, I have a funny story. So 7 years ago, 8 years ago, uh, I kept on getting these cop roles, but
Right. Right. Right.
a day of shooting or here, a day of shooting there, and I remember going to an audition for this new TV show that was about to come out in Montreal, and I auditioned for one of the lead detectives,
Mm.
and I prepared and I prepared and I prepared, and I got in there. I was ready to rock and roll.
Right.
And so when I got in there, the casting director who's there, I'll never forget it. So I do my scene, and then she's like, "How come I don't see you on TV?" That was her reaction. How come I
Really?
don't see you on? Yeah. So how come I don't see you on TV? How come we don't? And then could you just imagine? I'm trying to get there. You can't just say, "Hey, lady, you're right. What's up with that?" You can't.
I should be on TV, but I don't
You know what I'm
know. Why
saying?
you tell me?
So you can't really react that way. But
Right. Right.
I remember just being there, like I went like this.
I don't know. I don't know why I'm not on TV. You tell
What am I?
me. Yeah.
Okay, so what am I supposed to do? So she was like, "Okay, thank you very much for coming." And then I walked away. And in my head, I was like, "Oh well,
Yeah.
I gave it a shot.
Another audition next. Yeah. Yeah.
It is what it is." And
Mhm.
then a couple days later, or a week later, whatever, my agent calls me and she goes, "Hey, you didn't get the lead role, but you got casted in a supporting role for the show. You're shooting on Monday." And in my head, I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right. I'll be the cop. I'll be the desk officer.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I don't get to wear
A
regular
uniform
clothes. I'll
or
have to. No, I mean,
uniform.
I'll have to wear a uniform.
Right.
Okay, been there, done that. So I remember my first day, I get on set and I do my scene. And then in my head, I was like, okay, hey, thank you guys. It was great. And she's like, well, what do you mean? Where are you going? You're shooting tomorrow, you're shooting the next day, and you're shooting next week. And I'm like,
What?
what do you mean? She's like, at the time, I didn't even know what a series regular meant. Right? So I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's a big deal.
yeah. So I'm like,
Regular means you're regularly on it.
yeah. So I'm like, oh, okay, sure. And then 6 years later,
Yeah.
you know, I'm still there. And you know, my role wasn't big, but it was such a blessing in disguise because I was in a lot of scenes and I saw the lead actors. I mean, I got to tell you, that show was the #1 TV show in Montreal. It was called District 31. So it was happening
Yeah,
at
I've heard of that. Yeah.
okay. So the lead actors would have to go through 40 pages of text every day.
Wow.
It was nuts. And it was like 1 or 2 takes, tops. Whether you had 5 pages or 3 lines, you only had 2 takes.
Yeah, it's like you're
So I remember sitting there and watching those guys act and having the sides in my hands, seeing, learning, expanding the horizon. It was the best school ever.
right.
And then lo and behold, I finished that show, and obviously, I started playing in like gazillion TV shows, guest appearances, 3, 5, 6 episodes.
Right.
You know, that's when my career just went. You know, it's just blossomed. Right.
From that one series regular, because that one casting agent really loved you. So that's
Absolutely.
amazing.
So I'm forever grateful. Forever grateful. Yeah.
Right. With your Oscar nominated films, there's been 2. So you have also War Witch, which
that was the first one.
Yes, and that was in 2013. Tell me a bit about that movie and how that opportunity came to you.
So War Witch at the time, so we're let me see. I auditioned for War Witch probably in 2011. Yeah, 2011. And one of my very first acting school that I went to, even before university, I went to a school called the Montreal School of Performing Arts, MSOPA. And the president of that school, Miss Josa Maule, shout out to Josa, she was the casting director for that show, for the movie.
For the movie.
And I remember like it was yesterday. She sends me a message on Facebook. Hey, Ralph, how good are you with languages? Mm-hmm. I'm like, even if I'm not good, am I gonna say I'm bad?
You're gonna say, yeah, I'm good. I'll learn it. Like
I am great. I am great. Like, okay, well, I have this director who's about to shoot a movie in Congo, Africa, and he, why don't you come in and audition for him at the school? And so I remember going to the school, and where everything started for me, and this director's there, and the whole audition was an improv.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he would give me situations. This is what's going on. She was super spiritual, This is what
very zen.
Yeah, very. This is what's happening. I want you to be this. You're mean, but you're nice. You're this, but you're that. It's just so funny sometimes how they just think that we could just whatever they said made, even if it makes no sense, you're like, yeah, sure, all right. And in your head you're like, what am I gonna do? And so I went for it, and then I got the part. I got one of the parts. And then 2 weeks later, I was in Congo. Africa. Wow. Yeah, so I spent a month out there. And the funny thing about shooting that film, which was special, just like Invincible, the director decided to shoot the movie chronologically.
Okay, because that doesn't usually happen, right?
That almost never happens. It's too expensive. It's too expensive, right? So let's say, I remember I was there for a month and I was on page 5 and page 26.
Right.
So in between 5 and 26, I was just hanging.
You had a vacation, yeah.
Yeah, I was just discovering Africa, my first time in the motherland. So it was great. But the movie itself, you had this beautiful marriage between Congolese people and Canadian Quebecer people working together and to create this beautiful film that we did.
And it was nominated for Best Foreign Language
Best
Film. Yeah.
best foreign film. Yeah, best foreign
Right.
film
Very
at the 2013 Oscars. So
right.
at the time, I remember, I thought I had no idea about how Oscars worked. But
Right.
in my head, I already saw myself on that red carpet, like, okay, it's happening. I'm there, And then to find out, you make your way to Los Angeles. Okay, you go to events,
Yeah.
but we never got a chance. We never made our way to the ceremony.
No.
No. What production did is they had rented a house in Beverly Hills, and
Mhm.
everybody, cast and crew, and only the lead and the director and the producer actually went to the
To
actual
the
ceremony.
right.
Yeah. And so we all got together at the house. But I remember sitting in that house, watching the Oscars, and
Right.
telling myself, this ain't going to be the last time, buddy.
Right.
This
Right.
ain't going to be the last time. I don't know when, but it's not going to be the last time.
Right. And then this year, your film ended up there again. And so
And
how was
yeah,
the last weekend for you? Like sort of go over what it all encompassed.
well, this last weekend was very emotional for me, extremely emotional. Emotional because uh, I don't even know where to start. But I'll give you a little story. I'll give you a little
Okay.
prelude. Okay.
Okay.
So last month in February, I was in
Mhm.
Santa Barbara for the Santa
Okay.
Barbara Film Festival,
Okay.
and I had the honor and opportunity to present my very first lead role in a short film at the Santa Barbara Film Festival. So I spent a week in Santa Barbara, but I flew in LA and I drove to Santa Barbara, and then on the way back I did the same thing. But on my last day before I flew back to Montreal, I went to and at the time we were nominated, but I wasn't sure if I was going to go to the ceremony. So
Okay.
I drove on Hollywood Boulevard, parked my car, and I made my way to the Dolby Theater. And I looked at everything. I went up the stairs and I made my way all the way to the front door. And I was just like, I was manifesting that moment, but I was
Right.
also trying to find some peace because I had gotten disappointed in 2013. And so I was trying to tell myself, even if you don't make it to the actual ceremony, your work has been recognized and you're there, take your bow and send it off. And
Right.
so I did the stairs and I walked out and I remember seeing a security guard and I asked the security guard, I said, I just have one question for you. Could you just help me visualize? Remember I told you the
Yeah.
visualization. I said, help me visualize what happens to this place on Oscar night. And the guy smiled and painted me the image.
Oh
And
wow, that's
and
amazing.
I was just in La La Land, just looking and visualizing that moment. And so the day that I was in that limo, making my way through security
Right.
and through there was a big pro-Palestine protest going on.
Right. Yes, they
It,
had
you
actually
know,
had the Hollywood
man,
Boulevard closed down for a
it
while.
was
The police had
yeah,
to be there. Yeah. Yeah.
it was insane. And I remember I had my glass of champagne, and it was tough for me not to hold my tears because it was
Right.
just surreal, surreal. But I was proud. I was like, man. And so when I got out there, I already knew because everything that the security guy told me,
It
it
was all
was
there.
it was exactly that. So people were looking at me like, "What's wrong with you?" Well, nothing. It's fine. It's cool. Just another red carpet because I already lived that moment so many times in my head. It
Right.
was a beautiful moment.
So
Beautiful
you,
moment.
so you had visualized it, and then the security guard describing it to you,
Man,
he clinched it for you, and then you showed up on the Oscar red carpet, and it all sort of came together for you.
all together. All together.
Oh,
Yep.
that's good. And how was the overall ceremony? Like, how was that for you?
Just walking down that red carpet and just feeling the history. It was very hard for me to hold my tears.
Mhm.
It was so emotional. I was sad because my parents weren't with me, or
Mhm.
fellow actors weren't with me. People I care for, you know, my love, people I love the most. So it was hard. It was hard because I wish I was able to just bring him with me. I
Right.
remember FaceTiming my parents, just the red carpet, and everybody was like in awe, and that made my day. Because
Right.
if I can make my family proud, man, I don't need nothing else. I don't need nothing else. Yeah.
Exactly. Definitely. What do you have in the works? What's your next? Where will we see you next?
Where will you see me next? Well, when we were talking about the ups and downs of acting.
Right.
I was extremely close to getting a huge opportunity. It was
Right.
between me and somebody else,
Mm.
and I found out today that I didn't get it.
Oh,
Uh, and obviously, obviously I'm bummed, but
right. Yes.
but you know what? My agent is great. Shout out to Eugenie Gaillard. Uh, her agency and what they do. And you know what? She just said to me, Ralph, you're in the right path.
Right.
You've been doing great things. Your work gets recognized. You'll get other auditions and bigger opportunities are going to come. So right now I just came back and I'm sort of getting back into the sync of things
Right.
of
In
auditioning
Montreal.
and stuff
Right.
like that
Right.
in Montreal. Yeah.
How did you get your agent?
How did I get my agent? Well, she is wow. My agent is what's the biggest agency? One of the biggest agencies in LA. It's
You have WME, you have Gersh, you have UTA.
there's a name that I heard a lot in
Well,
LA.
you have CAA.
CAA. There you go. So she's like the equivalent of CAA in Montreal.
Okay.
She's got like a huge array of A-list actors. It's a very small. It's not big,
Right.
and I got in contact with her because I was working on a film with her, one of her A-list actors that I
Okay.
shared scenes with, and we had a great conversation. And he was like, "You got to speak to my agent." And I said, "You know how it works. I can't just call up your
Yeah.
agent."
Yeah.
So he vouched for me,
Yeah.
and then
Okay.
and then after that we met, and then yeah,
There you
I've been
are.
together with,
Awesome.
yeah, yeah. So
Very
shout out
cool.
to Bruno Marcil. Shout out to Bruno Marcil. I have to say that.
Yes. And anyone else you would like to give a shout out to? Anyone else who's like been very instrumental in your career, helping you, assisting you, or maybe someone who gave you some negative feedback that
Oh,
pushed you along the way?
the
Could
number
be
the number
positive
one.
or negative.
Oh, the number one guy is my father. Number one guy is
Okay.
my father. Lionel Prosper, my dad. My dad's a tough dude. We butted heads a lot. My father left Haiti after he graduated from med school.
Okay.
And then once he got to Montreal, they
Recognize
didn't
his
recognize any of
your
his
credentials.
diplomas,
Right.
and he had to start off from scratch again, do all the exams,
Oh
and then
wow.
and then become a doctor. And so once again, as I look back, I didn't understand when I was a kid because at the time it was only my mom working and my dad was at home with these huge books, always studying day in and day out. But as a
Right.
kid, you don't really understand. But as you take a step back and you see the sacrifices and the hard work and the work ethic and the drive and the belief he had in himself to do bigger things for himself,
Mm.
once you understand that, everything changed. So the day I understood what hard work meant,
Mm.
well, what my father did for his career is what I'm doing now for myself.
Right.
So there's never enough effort. Time is never enough. So you have to figure it out and always give it your best. So my number one inspiration in life, because of what I've seen, because of what I've witnessed, is my father.
Mm. What does success look like to you? What is success to you?
Success to me is to have a family,
Mm.
to see my kids grow, to coach my kids at basketball,
Mm.
to have my own nonprofit organization to help the less unfortunate and the unfortunate ones,
Okay.
and to choose how many projects per year I want to work on.
Right.
This is the imagery that I want for myself and my family and my wife and everybody.
Oh, speaking of that, how do you deal as an actor? Do you find relationships hard to work on or to maintain?
It's difficult. It's very difficult. It's difficult because the actor's life it's never stable. And I don't think I've never believed in I've never believed in being with an actress. Just two unstable people, it's complicated. It gets complicated. So in my experiences and most of my actor friends, we've always sort of like, connected with people outside of our world where we
you have one stable person and one creative person doing whatever, right?
That's it. And so I've had rocky relationships. I've had difficult relationships, and it's still in the works. And so, but at the same time, the older I get, the easier it is for me to express what I need, because sometimes I find that artists have difficulties expressing exactly what they need. So, which makes it 10 times more difficult for someone who's not in that environment to understand. So you have to be able to express yourself and really say what you need.
Meaning like what you need emotionally or physically or all of the above?
All of the above. All of the above. All of the above. Yeah.
Okay. For someone living outside of the US, do you feel that do you yourself feel like you need to come to LA eventually, or you think there's enough work for you in Montreal, or what are your thoughts on, being an actor outside of the LA system?
So younger, I'll probably say 15 years ago, for the longest of time, I had the LA dream. I really wanted to. And then, then you start getting work in Montreal, and I work in French and in English. So,
right.
I work on both ends, and, I'm doing okay for myself, but I'm still not where I want to be. But as you get older, you're like, okay, am I really now at a point where I could pack up my suitcase and just get up in my van and, drive, I don't know.
Drive across North America from Montreal to LA and start over.
No, it's not even an option for me anymore. But I have to say that spending 4 days in LA for the Oscars, meeting all these actors, these producers, writers and whatever, and people giving me, telling me, hey, we see you in LA. Hey, you know what? You need to get yourself a manager. Hey, I'm telling you, your skill set is where it needs to be to have a fruitious career in LA,
Los Angeles,
in Los Angeles. And so now, I was like, that the fire and the desire of testing the market is there again. So that's also what I'm trying to get going with my agent, and also the connections that I've developed in the past 4 days. Because you know how it is. You can't wait too long, because then people forget you.
Yeah. You have to keep the coals high.
You got to keep that ball rolling.
Exactly. Keep the momentum going. Yes, definitely.
That's it.
So how do we find you on social media?
So you can find me on Instagram. My Instagram is official Ralph Prosper. And that's pretty much it. That's my professional link. Okay. Yeah.
And is there anything else you would like to mention before we go today? Is there anything we should look out for coming from you? Acting wise?
Anything to look out for acting wise?
Or anything wise, but like life wise?
No, acting wise. I really I know that greatness and real tough character choices will come my way, and it will be performances that will not be forgotten.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for
It
your
was
time.
so great
Thank
meeting you when you were here in LA.
Absolutely.
And I hope to see you on a screen soon. And, maybe next year you'll be back at the Oscars and we'll get to run into each other again.
Exactly.
So, okay. Well, cool. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today on Shout Out with Sage. And we will see you next time. So bye, everyone. Bye, Ralph.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.